Thank you, Chair. We're now live again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the Chief Executive, please, to report on the votes that we've just taken. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chairman. So before the live stream was interrupted, members of the Nottinghamshire County Council Policy Committee were voting on item 9 on their agenda today, Planning for the Future White Paper, August 2020. And the votes cast were as follows. For the motion, 11. Against the motion, 2. Abstaining from the motion, 6. So the motion was carried.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Now let us move on to agenda item 10. This is to consider whether the ARC and VIA collaboration has delivered any economic growth. And I am going to read out the recommendations here because I think this report's encapsulated in this. That the committee considers the approach and actions taken to date in formalising a memorandum of understanding between the ARC Property Services Partnership Limited, ARC Partnership, and VIA East Midlands on collaboration and joint working that supports Nottinghamshire County Council's wider strategies and plans on economic growth, and decides if there are any further actions that are required, and I'm going to propose that. Do I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I will second that and reserve my right.
Thank you, Reg. It's now open for debate.
Okay, you're going on mute.
Sorry, Kevin, would you like to speak? Yours is the first hand up, and then Chris Barnfather.
Chair. Yeah, I find this report a little bit lacking detail and information, actually. I mean, the title of the report, where it says ARC and VIA, really should be saying what it says in paragraph 2, ARC Partnership and VIA East Midlands. That's one thing. I mean, there's little known about ARC and the Scape Group Limited. I mean, as with when VIA was created in line with Cormac, the shares in Cormac and VIA, as you well know, was 49.51, I believe, and until we acquired the full shares and bought Cormac out. But in this report, it says very little of the shares divided between ARC and the Scape Group. I mean, I don't know whether any members know the share between how much shares ARC or even Scape Group own. What is the entitlement of shares between those two, and how are profits split between ARC and the Scape Group? So there's very little information. Who sits on the board of ARC? It'd be good to know. And on paragraph 14, it's saying that both companies, but actually we've got 3 companies here. We've got ARC, Scape Group Limited, and of course as our own VIA. And in paragraph 19 of the financial comments, I mean, it's well said here that will accrue the county councils either through reduced cost, increased workload, or increased dividends. So there's very little information for members here in this chair, and personally, I think it should be withdrawn and represented when more information is available to give all members to consider. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, I'm not going to do that. I have an officer waiting in the room, Derek Higton, and I'm going to ask Derek to come in when other members have spoken. So the next speaker I have then is Chris Barnfather.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm totally supportive of the paper that's before us today. As the chair of the Planning and Licensing Committee, I had the benefit of accepting an invitation from ARC, and I spent the best part of the day with them and met their senior management team, heard from them their business plan, how they effectively operate. The benefits clearly to this council were obvious. On the other flip side of that coin, of course, Via now having come in-house is now, I believe, delivering what it was always intended to do, which is a better service for the people of Nottinghamshire. And it seems to make eminent sense, therefore, that two bodies, one wholly owned by the County Council and one jointly operated by the County Council, should work more closely together and in alignment. There's reference in here to keeping the Nottinghamshire pound in Nottinghamshire, and that would have to clearly be the starting point. It doesn't obviate the need on occasions, of course, for either of the two bodies if their partner organisation cannot provide what is being requested or required of them. It doesn't preclude that either of these two bodies would look elsewhere. But I think what this memorandum does do is it identifies a starting point, and the starting point being that ARC and Via can be supportive of each other in providing the service from the County Council commissions on behalf of residents of Nottinghamshire. I think, again, this is a strategic level report. It's not about huge levels of detailing. It's establishing a principle, effectively, that a first port of call would be the sister or brother, or without sounding sexist, a partner organisation that comes under the umbrella of Nottinghamshire County Council. So I'm totally supportive of this, and I look forward to seeing the benefits economically and in service delivery for Nottinghamshire and its communities.
Thank you. And I have Richard Jackson as the next speaker. Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm happy to support this item as well. It was just really for Councillor Greaves' benefit. Chris has said much of what I was going to say. The paper is obviously about collaboration between these two companies to deliver economic growth, as the title of the report says. Questions about financial performance of ARC and Via, for that matter, come to Finance and Major Contracts Committee. So issues about shareholders and profits, etc., are reported regularly through that window. So as the report stands, I think it makes perfect sense that these two companies that we're aligned with deliver economic growth for us, and I'd point members to my committee agendas if they want to see those other details. And I know certainly Councillor Dare is a member of the board, I think both, and I'm sure he can give account of himself if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have Philip Byrne. Who's CF?
Yes, thank you, Leader. ARC is a very important organisation, certainly to the Children and Young People Services Committee. We are in the midst of one, if not the biggest new school building programme in the history of the County Council. And it's important that ARC are strong. It's important that they are able to work collaboratively to continue to deliver the economic growth that we expect them to deliver, and to deliver the new schools, which they have been remarkably successful in doing, and usually comfortably within budget. So if this is going to strengthen the business base of ARC by engaging in this memorandum of understanding and this greater collaboration, then I think it's everything that we should be supporting, and I shall be more than happy to vote for it and to see them developing many more schools across Nottinghamshire.
Thank you, Philip. Kate, I think you're the next hand up. I'm sorry if I missed you before. It wasn't intentional.
No, no problem. No problem. Thank you, Jim. That's fine. I don't think anybody could argue with the sense of these two organisations working more closely together. It makes absolute sense. What I don't understand is why this is needed, why this memorandum of understanding is needed. Why can't they just work more closely together? It seems overly bureaucratic, and I really don't understand. And I remain concerned, actually, whether there's something else behind this, to be honest, but I won't go there at this point. The only other thing I wanted to mention was paragraph 5, where, as Chris has just pointed out, about the value for money and the money staying in Nottinghamshire, which again, nobody, I don't think any of us would argue with that. But I just wonder to what extent this does really extend to small organisations, local business, smaller local businesses. And I know I ask this question a lot, and I'm assured that it's in all the policies and it's in practice. But to be honest with you, I'm still yet to be convinced that actually we really kind of go out of a way to try to kind of support local business and give them this kind of work. And I don't know whether this kind of bigger collaboration organisation, whether that would work in favour of small business or not. And I've got concerns about that. Thank you.
I can assure you I have been reassured on that very point myself. Are there any other speakers, please? Yeah. I'm going to bring Reg Adair in as a second.
I think Muriel had her hand up.
Muriel, sorry, Muriel.
That's fine. Thank you, Chair.
No,
I wanted to support what Councillor Fowler has just said. That I can't see the paper making the case for what we want to achieve. And on this issue about local, the debate goes on about what does local really mean, both at district and county level. That, quite often the debate is, well, we can't be too local because it cuts across procurement processes. We have to be apt for competitive tendering and so on. I think a lot more effort could go into encouraging small businesses to collaborate together and make a bid for a particular piece of work. I don't think we go local enough, but I don't see that this paper is really going to solve that problem. I just think it needs to make the case much more substantially. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have Mike Pringles, the next speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to reference back to Councillor Jackson, I completely appreciate that individuals come to us with the contracts and the financial reports. We understand that, but we're not debating that today. No. We're debating these guys coming together, and in the financial comments, it suggests where the savings are going to be. Well, if it suggests it, tell us what it is so we can see it, because you've got everything we see it at finance major contracts. So for it not to be in here, I completely don't get it at all.
Thank you. Could I bring Derek Higton in now, please? Officer in the room, Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Just to pick up then on a couple of the specific queries that we had in respect of Councillor Greaves's questions then. ARC was actually established under the previous administration in 2016 on the basis that 20% of the shares in ARC are owned by the County Council, with 80% owned by SCAPE, but profits are shared equally on a 50-50 basis. In terms of the board membership, Councillor Adair represents the County Council on the board of ARC, along with myself as the officer representative. Moving on to, and that was agreed most recently by Policy Committee through a resolution at a meeting last year. In respect of Councillor Fowles' queries around the kind of overarching purpose of the and need for the memorandum of understanding, I think it's worth stressing that both senior management teams of ARC and VIA are really keen on enshrining their intention to work together and building on their developing track record of working together, really as a means of giving additional impetus to the work that they're seeking to do. From a local supply chain perspective, it's certainly the case that, particularly from an ARC perspective, because ARC employs many more very small companies as part of its subcontracting network than VIA does, because the nature of their businesses is very different, obviously. ARC, particularly in its repair and maintenance activity, ARC employs a number of very local Nottingham and Nottinghamshire based one-man bands, if you like, to deliver a range of maintenance and repair works, and actually has a very strong Nottinghamshire and Nottingham conurbation network of local suppliers, and the intention is absolutely to continue on that front. I think the only other point I'd say is that as far as the joint work is concerned between the two companies, both companies have a significant amount of expertise in particular areas of and specialist areas of construction and engineering that the other company doesn't have. And both are really keen to share that. Councillor Owen talked about schools related projects, and most recently VIA have been sharing their flood construction expertise with ARC to support the effective installation of flood prevention work within a number of schools in the Newark area, actually. And that's a really good practical example, I suppose, of the kind of benefits of this kind of joint work, which both companies are seeking to build upon. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Richard, you've got your hand up again. Is that on purpose? Because you have spoken once to Jackson.
If I could just come back very quickly and just draw the opposition members' attention to the recommendation, because the final sentence of it asks the committee to decide if any further information is required. So we've heard criticism and we've heard people say there's a lack of information. Well, tell us what information you need, because the resolution is asking you to do just that.
Yes, thank you. Can I ask now Reg Adair to sum up as you propose this? Seconded this, Reg.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm surprised at some of the questions because, as Derek has just said, ARC was created under the previous administration. And I remember working with it, and it was all done then. All the shareholdings were sorted out by the previous administration. SCAPE has been around for 60 years, I think. 1960, SCAPE was Nottinghamshire and Nottingham. Well, it's D2, N2, Warwickshire and Gateshead are part of the SCAPE partnership. So I'm surprised that that question was asked, because that's been around for Labour administrations for decades. So I don't understand where you're coming from with those sort of questions and where the shareholdings are and all the rest of it, because it's all out there, it's public knowledge anyhow. It's not, there's no secrets and nothing behind it that is not public knowledge. And the council, as Richard said, brings it to committee, so that's all public knowledge. So I don't understand any of those questions at all. The key of this paper and the collaboration, we've got a very successful business in ARC who's doing very, very good work, building schools and doing all other sorts of things for the county council, working very closely with local SMEs and making sure that our local SMEs are in the frameworks, whereas previously we kept them out of the frameworks and they didn't get the business with the county council that they deserve. So they're doing a very, very good job on that. VIA has now come on board with them, and I think it's very, very important that both these arm's length organisations, even through SCAPE as well as another arm's length, or as a shareholder, we're a sixth shareholder in SCAPE, that they all work collaboratively together to provide for Nottinghamshire and the needs of Nottinghamshire and all the issues of their expertise where they are, and that we keep them combined together, because the cost advantages are enormous. The spend in Nottinghamshire are enormous. We're not asking companies from London to come to Nottinghamshire to do work. Nottinghamshire people are doing work for Nottinghamshire people. The pound, 92% of the capital programmes and projects that are spent that's arise in Nottinghamshire is spent with the people of Nottinghamshire. So, you know, it's all about good work, good economics, good economic growth for all the people of Nottinghamshire. And it's like that today, and I hope it's like that going forward, and the expertise and the skills that develops amongst the people of and the young people of Nottinghamshire to give them the opportunities they need as well. So I don't understand where this negative approach has come about two very, very important organisations who are arm's length companies of Nottinghamshire County Council, and they will take this council forward and get on with the work. Thank you. Chair.
As you say, Reg, these are two very successful companies. May I remind you all that when this deal was first done with Cormac, we were the junior shareholder, having 49%, and Cornwall, a much smaller county, having 51%. That's all now in-house. All the profits go to Nottinghamshire, and I think it's been hugely successful. So I'm now going to move to the vote, please. I'm asked the Chief Executive, please, to call the vote. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. And before I do, can I thank Derek Higton for attending Policy Committee this morning. Derek is currently self-isolating, suffering from COVID-19, so I'm grateful to you, Derek, for finding time for this today, even though you're unwell. So starting then with Councillor Adair.
4.
Councillor Barnfather.
4.
Councillor Butler.
4.
Councillor Cotty.
4.
Councillor Cutts.
4.
Councillor Fole.
Abstain.
Councillor Garner.
4.
Councillor Guilfoyle.
Abstain.
Councillor Greaves.
Abstain.
Councillor Harper.
4.
Councillor Jackson.
4.
Councillor Knight.
4.
Councillor Lawton.
4.
Councillor Madden.
4.
Councillor Martin.
4.
Councillor Owen.
4.
Councillor Peck.
Abstain.
Councillor Pringle.
Abstain.
And Councillor Weiss.
Abstain.
Thank you, colleagues. 13 for Chairman with 6 abstentions, so the motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Microphone's off, Kate. Okay.
I'm so sorry. This happens when we take the vote because I mute my microphone, so the Chief Executive is not getting any feedback. So I'll start again. We'll now move to item 11 on the agenda for the operational decisions. These are the updates from January through to August. Is there anything here which anyone would like to draw my attention to? I propose them. Do I have a seconder, please?
I second that and reserve the right.
Thank you very much. Do I have any speakers? I don't see anyone's hand up. I'm now going to move to the votes then. All those in favour, I shall ask the Chief Executive to call the vote. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Councillor Cutts. Councillor Adair.
4.
Councillor Barnfather.
4.
Councillor Butler.
4.
Councillor Cotty.
4.
Councillor Cutts.
4.
Councillor Fole.
4.
Councillor Garner.
4.
Councillor Guilfoyle.
4.
Councillor Greaves.
4.
Councillor Harper.
4.
Councillor Jackson.
4.
Councillor Knight.
4.
Councillor Lawton.
4.
Councillor Madden.
Abstain.
Councillor Martin.
Against.
Thank you, David. Councillor Owen.
4.
Councillor Peck.
4.
Councillor Pringle.
Abstain.
Councillor Weiss.
4.
There are 1, 2. There are 16 for, 1 against and 2 abstentions, so this is carried.
Thank you very much. That motion is now carried. Let's move on to agenda item 12, which is the notification of decisions taken under urgency procedures, the gigabit broadband voucher and green homes grant schemes. I'm going to propose a report. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adair, do we have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll second it and reserve the right. Sorry, I had to just jump up there quickly.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers? Richard Jackson, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Happy to support this, obviously. I'm just looking for some answers on paragraph 6, and I'm happy to take a conversation offline at a later date with an officer on it. It appears from paragraph 6 that we were making a bid to D2N2 for this funding, and were advised by D2N2 that that wouldn't be successful. I speak as a member of D2N2's Infrastructure Investment Board, and certainly that didn't get as far as members of that board. So I'm just interested if I can be brought up to date on exactly what reason, I assume it's officers of the LEP, exactly what reason they gave for believing it wouldn't be supported by the board, particularly given that Kent's similar bid was supported by their lab, and the fact that that board has issued 2 quite urgent calls for new schemes, up and ready schemes to invest in, because other schemes elsewhere across the region have fallen away over the last few months. Yeah, if I could have that information, I'm quite happy to take it after this meeting.
I think that's quite a wise decision there, Councillor Butler, because it could, Councillor Jackson, it could take a long time. I noticed 122 SMEs have benefited in one of the schemes, and a further, I think it's 65 businesses, which does seem strange to me that this gigabit voucher scheme is benefiting so many small businesses with SMEs, which we're here to support. So I will ask the officers to give you a reply to that, but as you say, outside this meeting, as I'm not sure we have the right personnel with us at the moment. So do you really accept that? Yeah, I'm sure you will. Is there anybody else wishes to speak to this? We're talking about the decisions taken under the urgency procedures at the moment. Right, I'm going to move to the vote now. All those in favour of these 2 decisions, which were supported by the leaders of the various groups. So, Chief Executive, would you call the register?
Councillor Adair.
4.
Councillor Barnfather.
4.
Councillor Butler.
4.
Councillor Cotty.
4.
Councillor Cutts.
4.
Councillor Fole.
4.
Councillor Garner.
4.
Councillor Guilfoyle.
4.
Councillor Greaves.
4.
Councillor Harper.
4.
Councillor Jackson.
4.
Councillor Knight.
4.
Councillor Lawton.
4.
Councillor Madden.
4.
Councillor Martin.
4.
Councillor Owen.
4.
Councillor Peck.
4.
Councillor Pringle.
4.
And Councillor Weiss.
4.
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's now move on to agenda item 13. This is the report, my report of the Getting Building Fund. The report's before you, and the recommendations are that the 5G enabled digital centre project is part of Nottinghamshire's £33.5 million Getting Building Fund allocation that supports the Nottinghamshire County Council COVID-19 Economic Recovery Action Plan for 2020-2022. This will provide much needed jobs, growth and further investment at this critical time. And it is recommended that this committee approves the council entering into the Getting Building Fund offer agreement. Do I have a seconder for this, please?
Second that and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much. Do I have any speakers to this item? No, I'm now going to move to the vote then, please. Chief Executive, would you please move the vote on the recommendations which I've read out, been proposed and seconded?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Adair.
4.
Councillor Barnfather.
4.
Councillor Butler.
4.
Councillor Cotty.
4.
Councillor Cutts.
4.
Councillor Fole.
4.
Councillor Garner.
4.
Councillor Guilfoyle.
4.
Councillor Greaves.
4.
Councillor Harper.
4.
Councillor Jackson.
4.
Councillor Knight.
4.
Councillor Lawton.
4.
Councillor Madden.
4.
Councillor Martin.
4.
Councillor Owen.
4.
Councillor Peck.
4.
Councillor Pringle.
4.
Councillor Weiss.
4.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Right, let's now move on then to agenda item 14. This is the Lyndhurst Development Update Site Disposals, and you can see the paper set out before you there. And the recommendations are, I'm going to move the recommendations, are all set out on page 4. To note the update on the Lyndhurst Development Scheme and approve the disposal of Plot 4 Phase 2 in accordance with the terms of Developer Collaboration Agreement and terms set out in the exempt appendix. To delegate authority to the Corporate Director placed in consultation with the Group Manager, Legal, Democratic and Complaints and the Service Director, Finance and Infrastructure and Improvement and the Chairman or the Vice Chairman of the Policy Committee to finalise details of the legal document to give effect to these proposals. To inform the committee of the bid for funding for T2N2 Local Enterprise Partnership Getting Building Fund and subsequent grant offer to them and others to obtain approval to accept the £3 million, to approve the variation of the capital programme by £3 million, to authorise the corporate director placed in consultation with the group manager, legal, democratic and complaints, and the service director, finance, infrastructure improvement, and the chairman or vice chairman of the policy committee to approve the items of the LEP grant funding agreement as set out in the exempt item of this report, and to approve the commissioning of the ARC partnership to deliver the project, which is funded by the LEP grant fund and contributions from the Lyndhurst Group. They are the recommendations which I am proposing. Do I have a seconder, please?
Good. A second that and reserve the right.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this item? No. Well, thank you very much. I'm now going to move to the vote. No one's asked to speak, so I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to take the vote. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Adair.
For.
Councillor Barnfather.
For.
Councillor Butler.
For.
Councillor Cotty.
For.
Councillor Cutts.
For.
Councillor Fole.
For.
Councillor Garner.
For.
Councillor Guilfoyle.
For.
Councillor Greaves.
For.
Councillor Harper.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Knight.
For.
Councillor Lawton.
For.
Councillor Madden.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Owen.
For.
Councillor Peck.
For.
Councillor Pringle.
For.
Councillor Vice.
For.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to move on to agenda item 15. This is the proposed sale of land off Rollerston Drive, Arnold, Nottingham, and the recommendations for this are to approve the sale of the land at Rollerston Drive as indicated edge black on the attached plan and the terms set out in the exempt approvals of this report. And I'm going to ask Councillor Chris Barnfather if he would second this item as it lies in his area. Councillor Barnfather.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Happy to second this and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers to this item now it's been proposed and seconded? Thank you. Councillor Barnfather, would you like to speak on this matter?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Can I say I'm delighted to see this paper before us today. The site on Rollerston Drive has been a bone of contention with the local community for a long time now. As an Arnold lad myself, I used to walk past the old county workshops on my way to school. As a teenager, I walked past it with a girlfriend. As a young police officer, I used to take panda cars there to be serviced. But the site has long since fallen into disrepute and ill repair. And indeed, under the last administration, it sat and festered for 4 years with nothing at all happening to it. And of course, we had the fire. This administration acted swiftly to then demolish the dilapidated buildings and make the site safe. But nonetheless, it's still been an eyesore for local residents. And indeed, there were some flooding issues at the bottom of the site during the last winter period. And although ultimately they were found not to be as a result of this site directly, the mere fact that it sat there was clearly a blight on the community. I'm pleased to see that we are now finally able to dispose of it. It's a good result for the County Council. It will hopefully, and we'll deal with this under exempt items, produce a capital receipt, and it will produce welcome housing, affordable housing for the local community. So I totally support the report. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this item? No, I shall now ask the Chief Executive, please, to call for the vote. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Councillor Cutts. Reg Adair. Councillor Adair.
For.
Councillor Barnfather.
For.
Councillor Butler.
For.
Councillor Cotty.
For.
Councillor Cutts.
For.
Councillor Fole.
For.
Councillor Garner.
For.
Councillor Guilfoyle.
For.
Councillor Greaves.
For.
Councillor Harper.
For.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Knight. Councillor Lawton,
For.
Councillor Madden,
For.
Councillor Martin,
For.
Councillor Owen,
4.
Councillor Peck,
For.
Councillor Pringle,
For.
Councillor Vice.
For.
Can I come back to Councillor John Knight? Okay, we've got enough to carry that motion, Chairman, without Councillor Knight.
Can I just say Councillor Knight's microphone is switched off. It's just
Okay, can I take the vote then for Councillor John
Chair,
Knight?
I beg your pardon. There was something wrong with the microphone. I am voting whichever way everybody else has voted. So I beg your pardon.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Knight. It's unanimous.
Okay, you're muted again.
muted again. And now move on to the work programme, agenda item 16, which is set out before you there. Those items are there to be added to if anyone would like to add to these items. It's not comprehensive at the moment, it's a rolling programme as well. But do I take it you all accept that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to call for exclusion of the public, and I'm going to ask the committee to resolve that the public be excluded for the remainder of the meeting on the grounds that the discussions are likely to involve disclosures of exempt information described in Schedule 12A of the Local Governments Act of 1972, and the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Do you all agree with that? Chief Executive, would you like to? It's an agreement on this.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't need a formal vote on this, Chairman. We can, if Keith is happy, then we can move to the second part of the meeting. So, Keith
Yes,
Ford, are you satisfied?
Yes, that's fine. We'll just need to stop the live stream now.
Thank you.
So if you can just give a few seconds and then we'll confirm.
Thank you.